The Cleveland Browns just released a massive defensive end. We're going to talk about what that entails for the Detroit Lions, or how it may affect the Detroit Lions. And Ogbo Okoronkwo is who was just released. Let's dive into it. Here we go.
Yeah, 1 2 1 2. Hey yo, AC. 1 2 1 2. Mic check. Hey, can y'all hear me out there? Against all odds, 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 against all odds.
The podcast.
Shout out to Rock on the Detroit Lions, man. My pride.
All right, Cleveland Browns just released a defensive end, and by many measurements, people are going to say, but Will, he's not massive, but he really is, and we're going to dive into why. But first and foremost, let's bring up what exactly happened. What are they going to say about this guy? Is he a fit in Detroit? I mean, I can see the headlines already. Everyone's going to talk about it, so I figured I might as well talk about it too. Let's bring it in. Okay, according to Yahoo Sports, Corey Kinnan from the Browns Wire just a little while ago, about an hour or so, said that the Cleveland Browns parted ways with their defensive end, Ogbo Okoronkwo, and you know that I butchered that name, so we're just going to call him the Double O. All right, after 2 seasons anyway with the team, I think he's only been in the league since about 2018. This is already his 4th team from what I've been able to gather, but this now made room to add a second kicker. So the Browns obviously valued a kicker more so than the defensive end. And that's exactly why I wanted to talk about this, because I don't really believe that this is a fit for Detroit, but we're going to try to flush it out and see how he may or may not help Detroit during camp. So anyway, Cleveland kicks him out the door. They bring in a kicker. They prepare to put Dustin Hopkins through a training camp battle following a rocky 2024 season last year. Obviously, kicking the football was not easy for Cleveland at all last season. But anyway, Okoronkwo was known as a fun locker room guy who brought that contagious personality to the field as well. Somebody that we also know. Zadarius Smith, right? Fun guy, big smile, infectious energy. Kind of a similar attitude here. It just seems like the guys coming out of Cleveland, for whatever reason, they're just happy-go-lucky guys. I want great football players, right? And I'm glad that he has that infectious attitude, because that is needed. It is absolutely needed during the gauntlet of what is known as the NFL season. So he signed a 3-year deal worth $19 million in 2023 and was a successful rotational pass rusher. See, that's the key. If the Lions are looking for depth, and that's the only reason why I'm really even talking about this guy, is depth. This is not a starter. This is not somebody that's better than Marcus Davenport. This is not someone that's, you know, better than really anybody we have on the roster right now. But if you're looking for depth, and if you're looking at getting a look at somebody, and I believe the Lions have 2 roster spots open right now in the 90-man, this could be a guy that they bring in to at least get a look at. Now, his measurables, which I'll talk about in just a moment, may not excite you, but there's a couple of things that I look at differently than others that will resonate with you, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But he racked up 4.5 sacks in a rotational role in 2023, adding another 3 sacks in 2024. Most notably played through injury in 23, as well as the Browns pushed themselves, while the Browns pushed themselves into a wild card spot. The veteran defensive end, following his release, now has responded with nothing but love to the place he called home for the last 2 years. He took to social, which is great, right? I mean, it's good to not be sour grapes about a situation. You know that you're leaving, you're getting kicked out the door, and he says, love to the land. Man, I mean, just, it tells you what kind of dude he is. So from a culture fit, right, from an identity of what the Lions are trying to bring into Detroit, this guy probably is a perfect fit, 100%. Body type, size, style of defense the Lions run, and maybe his ability on the field may not be a fit, but that doesn't mean that you can't take a look at him in camp. Hey, there may be something in your scheme that just, fits him, and maybe he does something well. We'll find out. Now, he'll look to add a 4th team to his resume now as he looks throughout the NFL for his next spot. Next up, I want to bring in his stats, and then we'll talk about his measurables. So, not super impressive stats. 2024, he was in 16 games, 3 sacks, 15 tackles, 1 forced fumble. His career, though, just underneath me, right here. 80 games, 13 starts, 17 sacks total, 89 tackles total, 4 forced fumbles though. That's not a bad number, right? 4 forced fumbles, pretty good. All right, let's take a look at his season averages and everything he did over the last several seasons. So it looks like he's been in the league about 6 years now, and started off with the Rams for 3 years, a year in Houston in 2022. And I believe that's the year they brought in Danielle Hunter, in 2023. So obviously they moved on from Double O at that point. Played in 10 games in his rookie season. Didn't do a whole lot. 1.5 sacks. 2020, another 10 games. COVID year, right? Rough year for everybody. Only 1 sack that year. In 2021, got in 13 games. 2 forced fumbles that year. Pretty solid number for that in just 13 games. 2 sacks. 15 tackles, and 3 TFLs. I love the TFLs as they get better and better and better as he gets better and better. At Houston, in his first year in 2022, played in 17 games, 8 starts. So the first time he got an opportunity to start in a game was in Houston. And 2 passes defense, 1 forced fumble, 5 sacks that year. So best year by far for him was that year in Houston. 44 combined tackles, 32 solo, 11 quarterback hits. 9 TFLs. That's a big jump from 3, right? And, okay, moving forward to 23, this is kind of where things start to get really good for him, in my opinion. 14 games. No starts, though, right? Cleveland is pretty solid with Zadarius Smith and Myles Garrett. He was in a rotational role, obviously. Probably only getting 35 to 50% of the snap share if he was lucky. 4.5 sacks that year in 2023. 31 combined tackles. But it's the 12 TFLs right here, right? This is the number that I'm paying attention to is TFL. I don't pay attention to sacks a whole lot. And I think you guys understand me by now that I'm probably one of the ones that is different, right? Everyone else talks about sacks. That's like the glory stat. I care about the dirty work. I care about what these guys are doing each and every play, not just a few plays a season. The TFLs are way more important to me because that tells me his assignments. He knows what he's doing. He's got his eyes on the football. He's able to penetrate the backfield and not just the quarterback, right? Paying attention to the run game, screens behind the line of scrimmage, whatever. That means that he's able to affect the line of scrimmage from play to play. 8 quarterback hits that year in 23, and then last year in 24, he was able to get into 16 games, got 5 starts. And I would assume that those 5 starts came when Zadarius Smith moved on after the trade deadline, to the Detroit Lions. I would assume that that's when they came. I don't know for sure. 3 sacks that year, 23 combined tackles, 5 TFLs, and 6 quarterback hits. So, not crazy stats, guys. Just not crazy stats. Now, measurables. Okay, this is something that I pay attention to because everyone has a box to fit, right, or a box to check. And one of the most important measurables, obviously, Brad Holmes made the funny about height, weight, speed, but it's height, weight, speed. So let me throw this guy in here real quick. And here's what I'll tell you right away. He's 6'1" and 5/8. We'll call him 6'2". So he's kind of short to be a defensive end. He's only 250 pounds. 250, 255. But here's where the things start to really get better for him. Wingspan, 80.25 inches. I don't care that he's 6'2" and 250. He's obviously a really light tweener style of a defensive end. Probably could be a big linebacker. I'm not sure how he is in coverage yet, but I'll pull up PFF here in just a second. But what I look for in that wingspan, which again is 80.25, we're going to weight that against his height. We're going to find his APE index right now. So we'll just call it 73 5/8 inches because he's 6'1" and 5/8. So his APE score is 1.09, which is elite. That means that he is really long from his breastbone, the center plate, all the way to his fingertips. He's really long arms. And then he also has really good arms, 33 3/4. So that would be 2 elite scores for him. That's why he's playing in the NFL. Not only can he play the game, but it's those 2 marks for me that stand out. That tells me that he can reach and get his hands on a running back, right? Get his hands up and bat those balls down. But more importantly, he can engage with the offensive tackles on the outside and be able to disengage or use that long stab arm to keep himself away while he rips and gets underneath and bends that edge. So it'll be interesting to see what what the film will look like, but I'm not going to waste a ton of time because I really just don't think the Lions right now are probably looking to add another defensive end to that room that is really thick. Unless they suffer some sort of an injury, between now and training camp, I can't imagine that the Lions would want to do that. Overall, his grades were not great. If you're a PFF person, last year his overall grade was a 45, pass rush was a 55. I'm going to go back to 22, which was one of his better years, right? His PFF grades really stood out in that season, and that's where he locked up a 75.1 overall and 81.9 in the pass rush. 81.9 in the pass rush. Now, I would bring these in, but it's not set up for me, but you guys can look it up on PFF if you'd like. 61.5 in the run defense. It's probably a little bit light to be a Detroit Lion, right? We love that run defense grade to be a little bit higher. But anything above 60, I think, is pretty good. It's about average, maybe a little bit better than average, I think, for your standard NFL player, or your standard rotational player. 2023, he was a 65.7, 63.3 overall against the pass rush. Let's wind back to 21. Pretty good year for him. Again, he didn't play a ton, but 79.2 overall, 72.8 in the pass rush, and 72.5 in the run, or against the run. So my question is this. Was he underutilized? Was he misused? Was he not put in the right scheme? Because early in his career, when he started with the Rams, in 2018, nothing. But 2019, he started to look pretty good. His numbers are fairly solid. 2020, COVID year, everything fell apart for him. 21, that's when he really started to put things together. So, that was his last year with the Rams. And then in 2022, when he moves off and goes to Texas, he had a decent year, right? Decent year. So I'm interested. I'm intrigued. Let's put it, I'm intrigued. But this is not a guy that is going to facilitate a bunch of sacks for you. This is not a guy that is going to replace a Marcus Davenport. This is not a guy that's going to replace anybody that we really have on the roster right now. Great camp, competition, but for me, I just think that Double O here is probably going to find himself on another roster. I'm 50-50 on it. I'll be honest. I'm 50-50. I think the Lions could take a shot. But then again, I think we're pretty good right now. So that's it for this. Don't waste too much time on this guy, guys. But we'll see you tomorrow morning on the Rise of Grind Morning Show. Take care. Bye-bye.
The podcast.
Shout out to Rock on Detroit Lions, man. One pride.